Okay guys, as promised, I made a nice little video here helping you review solving quadratic functions, and we're going to focus on complete the square a little bit. So if you look at this problem here, the first step to complete the square is we always like our number on the right side. Again, some teachers actually will have you have the number on the left side and then you finagle with it there. But trust me again, it always is nicer just to keep that number on the right side. And now I left this space right here, right, for that perfect square number. And that perfect square number is simply take this b, as we call it in the quadratic formula, the 6 here, in this case, divide by 2 is 3, right? And if we square that number, which is 9, that is the perfect square number we need. So as you can see, I'm going to have x squared plus 6x plus 9 equal to 5. Now this, you see, is a perfect square. It's actually x plus 3 times x plus 3, you see. But of course we call it x plus 3 squared, hence the name perfect square. And if that equals 5, we now can solve this. All we have to do is square root both sides, and we're going to get x plus 3 equal to plus or minus the square root of 5. And then solving for x, all I have to do is do a negative 3 or minus 3 on both sides. So x itself has to be negative 3 plus the square root of 5 and negative 3 minus the square root of 5. And a lot of times that'll be your answer, but let's say your teacher wants you to actually convert it into decimal form. Well, taking our calculator, guys, if I do the square root of 5, that's 2.236 and so on. Notice if I take the negative 3 plus the square root of 5, because that's what we got right here. And then I'm going to do negative 3 minus the square root of 5, okay? And so we're going to get negative 0.7639. If we round that off a little bit, that'll be negative 0.764, right? And of course, notice here I did negative 3 minus the square root of 5 on the calculator. And here's my negative 5.236 or 4 if I round that off a little bit. And we just solved this equation with complete the square. Okay? Now, another important thing to understand is what we actually found was, if we look at the graph, as you can see the red quadratic, hopefully, right here, does it not cross at negative 0.764? And on the left side, does it not cross at negative 5.236? Which is, again, exactly what we got on the calculator, which is exactly what we got down here. And hopefully you always make that link between the answer and, because these are basically our zeros, guys, okay? Sometimes they're also called the roots of the equation or the x-intercepts. Pause the video anytime right now if you need to, okay guys? Now the last thing I want to add to this video is, some of you are thinking, well, complete the square is still a little confusing, right? Well, on the final, guys, I need you to practice this, okay, because there is one or two problems that involve complete the square. But I just want to make sure you understand, I also could have just used the quadratic formula. So follow the blue here. Here was my original equation. Now to do the quadratic formula, notice the first thing I did right here was I added 4 to both sides because we want it to equal 0. Of course, that means A is our 1, B is our 6, C is our 4. Guys, we got to have this memorized by now, the quadratic formula, okay? And as you can see, follow the red, I did negative b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I ended up with the square root of 20 as my radical. Look to the far right over here, guys, and you can see I simplified the square root of 20. And the square root of 20 is 2 times 2 times 5, better known as square root 2 square root 2 square root of 5. And a pair of square roots together make a regular number, and that's where this 2 comes from. And if I did not show you this in class yesterday or earlier today, if you look at my answer now that I've simplified the square root of 20, you can hopefully see I can distribute this divide 2 here, and negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, and of course 2 divided by 2 is 1, square root of 5, and negative 3 plus or minus square root of 5 is exactly what we got here, which is exactly what we got on the calculator again, which matches our roots or zeros on our graph. So again, if you need to pause the video here just as a little quick refresher on the quadratic formula, please do so. Okay, so guys, this is a good video, I hope you agree. And I've tied a graph with the roots to solving the quadratic by completing the square as well as a quadratic formula. And hopefully you understand this, because this is definitely important for IM2 guys, but you always will be expected to know how to do the quadratic formula, at least when you're solving quadratic functions. Okay? All right, I'll see you in class.